Alright guys, I've finally been able to sit down and record this video. The intent was to do it yesterday, but after getting all the work done in the morning, had a bit of a trip into town to tick off some jobs and vigil mass as well, so didn't get back here till like 9 o'clock. So it's sunny, finished a couple jobs for the morning and got the rest of it to sit down and get some of this done. So I've got my notes here for today. This video has been requested by a few people in terms of the sort of the discussion and conversation around marriage and comparing like secular relationships to, I guess, marriage as an institution instituted by God. So we're going to get into that today. I will do a separate video talking about how I'm preparing for marriage myself, getting married in about 2.5 months. So stay tuned for that one as well. But I guess it's interesting, the societal conception of this at the moment, because I was speaking with a secular guy. I'm not going to sort of reveal too many details around it, but he was telling me how he'd been with his girlfriend for almost a decade, and that the beauty of their relationship was that they could walk away at any time and they weren't bound by any contract or whatever. And it's interesting because as a Christian, I would say, well, the beauty of marriage is that it's a lifelong commitment. So I was very curious how these two perspectives view the fact that you can walk away and that there's no commitment as beautiful. Then I would view the fact that there is so much commitment and that bond is so strong as really beautiful. So there's kind of like a conflation of terms here in a way. So I thought I'd approach this pretty basically. Like, I don't want to get too in depth to like the spiritual stuff or anything like that. So I guess secular relationships at the moment, everyone is aware that marriage is going downhill. Like, people don't get married anymore. People that do get married, there's a super high rate of divorce because I don't know when it was legislated in the US, but now you can get divorced for no reason. Or back in the day when it was still allowed, you had to provide an actual reason that was judged by the courts. But divorce for no reason is allowed. People don't see the value in it. People are sleeping around a lot. Like, it's not really a thing anymore. And I wanted to sort of speak a bit about the commitment stuff, because I think we know physically sleeping around is bad. Like, anyone with some IQ knows that it's bad. Like, the fact that you're having a sexual relationship with multiple partners where you're doing something that's meant to be reserved for someone really special, but if you sort of commercialize that or urbanize it or remove the sacredness around it and you're just doing it with whoever, whenever, I think everyone recognizes that that's bad and that's detrimental to you emotionally and physically. Like, I don't think anyone would argue that that's good for you in any way. So I think that's really obvious. But I think, sort of emotionally speaking, within a relationship, like, let's say you're with a partner and you're not married, but it's a pretty committed relationship, or you even have kids. Like, sleeping together before getting married is basically, like, this is what JP said, it's basically like saying you're good enough for now. So I want to commit to you in the sense that I'm having all the privileges of a married partner, having all the privileges of that deep committed relationship, but in reality I'm holding something back within myself, and that's my actual commitment to you. Because by living as if, or they have de facto marriage here, which I found out about, by having a de facto marriage, you're not actually married, you're basically taking everything from that person, or being with them because it's pleasurable, or because it's convenient, or because you get along really well. I'm not saying there can't be deep relationship here, but then why are you not going that extra step to commit? Because you're basically saying, this might not always be the same, I might not like you, there might be a problem, and that's it, we're gone. Like, there's no actual commitment there. And you can say, well, I am committed to this partner, but that's the whole point of marriage. It's to say that even acknowledging the fact that there will be things that come up, that there will be difficulties, the whole point of this thing is to commit to one another and to stay faithful to one another and see this through right till the end. So if you always have that way out, whether it be divorce within marriage or whether it not be married at all, it's always going to leave certain things unaddressed, because at the end of the day, if something becomes too difficult, I can just walk away and no one's really going to say anything otherwise. Yeah, basically, if anyone has felt that they've had enough, that's it. So it's really quite unstable. And I think, I guess I'm not really sure how secular women would feel about it, but from my point of view, like, if you're sleeping with a guy, or like have a relationship with a guy but you're not married, it kind of leaves you in a very vulnerable position, because let's say the girl wants to eventually start a family, but in reality, despite having been with a guy maybe multiple years, she's got no assurance of him being there for her, of him providing for her, or of him even wanting to have a family. So she's basically giving her body and her life as a gift to this guy, with nothing in return aside from the convenience of the relationship. So I think people approaching relationships nowadays, you really have to think, what do I want out of this? Because if it's really not marriage or the family, there's really not much there. There's not much there aside from pleasure. It could be just pure basic physical pleasure, but let's say the pleasure of me being with someone who I like or who I enjoy spending time with, at the end of the day, it's a friendship of utility or a friendship of pleasure, because there's nothing deeper than that, because I'm not actually willing to truly give myself to that person. I'm always going to be withholding that commitment being in a relationship like that. And yeah, it's simply not worth the trouble. At least that's from my point of view. And I guess to discuss it in a bit more of a positive light, let's say, all right, you've convinced me, like, this is clearly not the way. And I think if you challenge me on that, I think it really just is a cope, because I think everyone intuitively knows that there's something wrong with that kind of behavior. Like, obviously you can take it to the extreme and everyone's going to be very against that, like complete promiscuity or prostitution. But I think everyone inside, in their heart, they know that they're made for something more, and they know that the way that people are living right now in terms of sexual relationships and partnerships or having kids outside of wedlock, there's something missing there. Like, everyone can look at the husband and wife who've been together for 50 years and they've raised a beautiful family of children, and now they're having grandchildren and they're building that empire, and it's really a family full of love. That's 100% the ideal. I think that's very clear and very intuitive. So what are the two ends of marriage? So I think probably what society is stuck at the moment, traditionally in the church, there's two ends to marriage, which is the good of the spouse and the procreation of offspring. So if you only have the good of the spouse in mind, you can easily justify heaps of things. Well, it's good for us to not have children at the moment. Well, it's good for us to not get married. It's good for us to do all of these things that are contrary to morality and creation. It's good for me to be sleeping with another man, because that's actually the relationship that we've discussed. It's the good of the spouse. So if you only take that premise, you can justify heaps of stuff. So it's the good of the spouse and the procreation of offspring. So there's kind of two things there that are super necessary that kind of help us understand marriage. Of course, marriage is between a man and a woman, and you're marrying the woman. You're not marrying the children that you're going to have with her. So that relationship is key, and that you should continue to prioritize that relationship throughout the course of raising a family. But the whole point of you getting married is also to raise a family. So instantly you've introduced, one, a concept outside of yourselves. So it is no longer about bringing the most pleasure or satisfaction to my partner, but it's actually about raising children and committing to this mission and project outside ourselves. And that you instantly add in the dimension of time. Because if it's only the good of the spouse, well, maybe it's only for 2 years. And actually after that, her good is to be with another partner. So that's also wrong. The moment that we introduce children, you're now stretching the time frame out, and you're adding responsibility as well. So the whole point of marriage and the family is that, like, joint pact, that joint mission of two people that obviously love each other to the maximum degree, are willing to commit their entire lives till death to each other, and to commit to raising a family. That's all. Those have always been the goals and ends of marriage. And it's like, anything less than that, like when you view that epic mission, that beautiful partnership, that raising of a family, anything less like that is always going to be found lacking. There's no way around it. So yeah, Proverbs 31, a capable wife who can find? She is more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. So I guess truly, when you do find someone who's willing to do that with you, who's willing to literally commit the rest of their lives with you, you can actually trust, you can actually be vulnerable, because there's not going to be that thing where you're like, okay, I don't know how long she's going to be here for. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know if they want to have children. Like, you just remove so many elements of uncertainty. So I think, I guess speaking personally, to find someone that is willing to do that with you, who has that same understanding of the relationship and understands the commitment involved, there's so much peace and security around that, because you're not going to be making decisions based on how you feel when you wake up in the morning, or based on how convenient or how nice the relationship feels at the moment. You've already committed. You've set that stake in the ground. So yeah, those were my notes for the most part. I did write some extra sort of ideas around marriage, like obviously finding a faithful and virtuous woman, building a righteous kingdom and family, and a couple of reasons of why marriage has to be lifelong as well. For one, it takes time to find someone of that caliber who's actually willing to get married in the understanding that I've just given. It takes time to raise a family, as I already mentioned, and we're only really designed to do this once. Like, the strength of those bonds and relationships that you make with a woman and that you form with your children, you don't really have the capacity to do that more than once. Like, you kind of only have one shot at it. And I'm sure people who have divorced or raised a family and divorced could probably attest to this. Like, I don't imagine it would be the same finding another partner or having to start again, or, building that relationship with a woman for however many years, only to then have something happen and then you're single again. So yeah, we're designed to do this once. This is the most fruitful way to do it. Bonding, kids, strength of the family. And this is from Gospel of Mark, verses 6 to 10. God made man and woman, no longer two, but one flesh. And what God has joined together, let no man separate or put asunder. And that ultimately, this video has mostly been like a worldly understanding of like how traditionally we have viewed marriage. But ultimately, marriage is a thing given to us by God all the way back in Genesis. And obviously it's a sacrament of the church. So it's something that is willed by God. It's a sacrament that is essential to the life of the church and the life of us as men and women. And to participate in that and to follow it and to strive for it and look to attain it and live it the most virtuously as possible, that's really the path to flourishing, and that's really the path to the best relationship you could ever have. And that's ultimately the message. Like, anything else, I feel like if you're trying to say that it's better, it's ultimately going to be limited to the short term or to immediate pleasure. That ultimately the most satisfactory and yeah, the best relationship for yourself. And I know there's studies been around this, like fulfillment within a relationship and married couples who have not had a sexual partner or whatever before marriage. Heaps of studies around that. The stats are way higher for married religious people in terms of satisfaction, happiness, and heaps of different stats. You can look this up. But anyway, that's not the point. I don't want to discuss science. I just want you guys to understand that this is the way that we're made. This is the way God has made us to interact with each other, and that marriage is the best and most honorable way to have a relationship with a woman. Alright, the next video will be on how I'm preparing to get married. I'm getting married in end of June this year. So I'm gonna sort of do a bit more of a practical video, maybe discussing dating and some of those actionable steps that I took. I guess having discerned marriage as my vocation and sort of working towards that. So stay tuned for that. I need to hold myself more accountable to the weekly schedule. So if I don't drop that next weekend, please reach out to me. All right, God bless.